it becomes, beyond a certain resolution, indistinguishable from reality. And there are likely to be millions, maybe billions of such simulations. So then, what are the odds that we're actually in base reality? Isn't it 1 in billions?
The answer is it's going to work just fine because we are there to the point where we can do it now.
Suppose you have had access to information within every other person's brain and they had access to yours. What would happen? Has it happened? Can it happen? And what would it mean for the future of human societies? No more secrets.
Magnetic fields are a field phenomena. And I'll go over this part quickly because it gets a little boring. But energy in the vocabulary of science is whatever a body, a mass, or a system has that allows it to do work. And work is defined as anything that changes where a force is being applied. And a force is anything that changes inertia.
A computer simulation in which the simulated people are conscious. So that might require simulating these virtual people to a level where individual neurons in their brains would be included in the simulation. So if all you're simulating is a kind of two-dimensional little diagram, then obviously there is no conscious experience arising from that. But if you were simulating, say, a brain down to the level of individual neurons, then on many theories, that simulation itself could create consciousness. That what makes something conscious is not that it's built out of carbon atoms like we are inside the brain, but that it implements a certain kind of
This is not a mandatory thing. This is a thing that you can choose to have if you want. This is something I think is going to be really important at a civilization level scale. So, and I've said a lot about AI over the years, but I think even in a benign AI scenario, we will be left behind.
Our design philosophy is that this should be safe enough that it can be an elective procedure. So what have we done to try to make it safe? For starters, we've created very small threads. They displace a lot less tissue than the traditional methods.
Our algorithms can compress neural data by more than 200 times, and it only takes 900 nanoseconds to compute.
Try to relax. This will feel a little weird.
Our first clinical trial patients are going to receive an experience much more like traditional neurosurgery. But our aim is to simplify the procedure, down to the injection of local anesthetic, a very small opening in the skin, a painless opening in the skull below, quick and precise placement of threads into the cortex, and then we fill that hole in the skull with the sensor, allowing the scalp to be closed up over.
Any movement that a person thinks about, any movement at all. A person could imagine running or dancing or even kung fu, and we would be able to decode that signal. Okay. And I've talked about readout, but remember we want bidirectional information. We don't only want to read information out of the brain, we want to be able to put it back into the brain. Now to some of you that may seem a little bit fantastical that you could write information into the brain, but actually the basic building blocks of that technology are already there.
Of nearly 100 billion cells called neurons. Neurons come in many complex shapes, but generally they have a dendritic arbor, a cell body called a soma, and an axon. The neurons of your brain connect to form a large network through axon-dendrite junctions called synapses. At these connection points, neurons communicate with each other using chemical signals called neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are released from the end of an axon in response to an electrical spike called an action potential. When a cell receives enough of the right kind of neurotransmitter input, a chain reaction is triggered that causes an action potential to fire, and the neuron to in turn relay messages to its own downstream synapses. Action potentials produce an electric field that spreads from the neuron and can be detected by placing electrodes nearby, allowing recording of the information represented by a neuron.
Human surgeon can't actually implant them without help, so we created help. Neuralink developed a tool that we're extremely proud of, a robotic inserter. Inspired by designs conceived of in labs here in the Bay at UCSF and Berkeley, we developed this robot that can rapidly and precisely insert hundreds of individual threads representing thousands of distinct electrodes into the cortex in less than an hour.